there, and welcome to today's Lenten Devotional. My name is Mandy, and I'm a marriage and family therapist here in Nashville, Tennessee. And today I'm going to dive into humility. I found the concept of being humble and humility to be really misunderstood and taken out of context. Somewhere along the way, being humble came to be synonymous with having low self-value or self-worth or low self-esteem. And don't get me wrong, I can see how it got there. I mean, when you think about pride and someone having an inflated sense of self, the natural opposite of that would be to have a deflated sense of self, or to see yourself as more unvaluable or just of lowly worth. And even Scripture gets a little confusing. I mean, when we think about Philippians 2:3, it says that in humility we should value others above ourselves. So there's a lot of places that it gets a little mucky and murky to understand what humility really is. But here's the thing. I don't think God ever intended for us to believe that to value others above ourselves meant that we have to lower ourselves to the level of a doormat. As a woman growing up in the South in an evangelical church, the message, whether it was overt or covert to me, was that I was to serve regardless of what was good for me or healthy for me. And that was done out of the name of humility. And I just don't think that's what God had intended for us. And in fact, as we remember the sacrifice of Jesus during this Lenten season, we can also remember that his sacrifice lifted us to the level of an heir. We're seated in heavenly places with Christ. We're citizens of heaven. We are light in the Lord and righteous and holy. When we forget that, when we forget who we are and we forget whose we are, humility can feel like a thing to be avoided. It can be frightening or just undesirable. It can seem like we're admitting that we're less worthy than others. It can feel like we're asked to set aside healthy boundaries, or that we can't be proud of hard work and accomplishments and goals that we've completed. But I think that when we fully embrace the glory of who we are, when we believe that we've been created by a holy and perfect maker who knew us before we were even in our mother's womb, when we really allow ourselves to accept that Jesus saw us as valuable and worthy enough to die for us, living a life of humility isn't so intimidating. When we see ourselves for who we truly are, we can more easily accept our good qualities as well as our limitations. It becomes okay that we aren't always right and we don't always have the right answers. It becomes okay to admit that we've made a mistake. When our identity and righteousness isn't connected to rightness, humility isn't intimidating. It's actually freeing. So as you consider humility during this season of reflection, please remember that you're not being called to self-abandonment. Instead, you're being called to see yourself in your true identity, and that's the identity through the eyes of Christ. Thank you. Have a good one.